This is the Grey Havens, the limited edition environment statue from Weta Workshop. This is a piece many collectors have been waiting years for, and it's finally here. If you don't remember, the Grey Havens is a peaceful, ancient harbor where the elves depart across the sea to the undying lands at the end of their time in Middle-earth. Probably most notable to Lord of the Rings fans as the departure point for Frodo, Bilbo, and Gandalf at the end of The Return of the King. Personally, I had been eagerly awaiting this piece since my environment collection so far only consisted of Hobbit holes and Minas Tirith. And also, there's something truly magical about this place that always stayed with me from the films. It's one of those rare places in Middle-earth that feels both like an ending and a beginning. A sort of sense of closure, while simultaneously evoking the possibility of endless journeys beyond. From the moment I laid eyes, this piece is mesmerizing. There's an incredible amount of detail that's almost overwhelming in the most wonderful way. Yet let's first focus our attention on the elven ship with the white sails. Keeping in mind the scale, I think this looks pretty great. The mast of the ship, as well as the sail, are sort of on the thick side, but with scale comes fragility, and I'd much rather it be slightly thick than have a chance of breaking. The bulwarks and gunwales, the small guardrails along the edge of the ship, are well defined and mirror what we saw in the film. However, I do wish the front of the ship was more swan-like, similar to the way it was depicted on screen. But again, I can understand fragility was a factor in the design choice. Next, let's talk about the bridges, since to me, they sort of make the piece and almost give it a labyrinth-like feeling. From what I can see, there are 11 bridges in total, and they don't just span the waterways, they also link the various rocky peaks throughout the landscape. They sort of wind through the environment and definitely give this city harbor a sense of connectedness. It feels like every path leads somewhere significant, whether to the docks, the towers, or the higher cliffs. You could say it almost adds a sense of movement to the piece, the way they crisscross over the landscape. Next, let's focus our attention on these seemingly endless towers scattered throughout the city. I counted around 80, though it's easy to imagine I may have missed a few. What I find interesting is that at first glance, many of them appear identical. But the more you look, the more you notice subtle differences that seem to make each one unique, while still maintaining a unified style. Some towers stand alone, hinting at hidden pathways and unseen passages winding through the rocky cliffs, adding an air of mystery to the city harbor. It's these kinds of details that make it feel like a place full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Also notable is the lone islet with the small tower in the middle of the water. I'm not sure if it's meant to be a watchtower, but it's a wonderful little touch of something extra. Now onto the docks, which are arguably one of the more important elements as it marks the final place in Middle-earth the elves, Bilbo, Frodo, and Gandalf stood before departing. There are 3 docks in total, with the curved one being the very spot where their ships set sail. And I think these all look great. The one in the middle even has the little post meant for tying off the ships. Besides just the elven cityscape, the cliffs and plant life throughout the diorama are also really well done. Nearly every element, the greenery, the rocky areas, the buildings, and even the water, features a very obviously time-consuming paint application, with multiple layers of various colors to create depth and texture. It's an interesting effect because while you can clearly see the gray of the Grey Havens from a distance, a closer look reveals a spectrum of colors subtly blended together. The greenery spread throughout creates a nice contrast to the stone buildings, making the details really stand out. This is very clearly an ancient city, weathered by time, yet still teeming with life and beauty, as if nature is slowly reclaiming it. And now I feel I should mention something you may have noticed too. There are what I'll call small hairs scattered throughout the piece. They're likely not actually hairs, and they come off easily, but it's something I haven't seen before with Weta. It's not a big issue since they can be removed, but I found it a bit odd. If you notice the same with your statue, let me know in the comments. So what's my overall opinion of this piece? What a spectacle. The level of detail is incredible, from the intricate elven architecture to the weathered stone docks and lush greenery. It beautifully represents the essence of the Grey Havens, a place that feels both timeless and alive with history. It has a beautiful paint application with many layers of colors that help to add depth and texture to every corner of the city. There's been a very obvious attention to loads of detail, from the tiny bricks covering everything to the sculpted waves throughout the water. Yes, there was that weird hair issue, but now that I've dealt with it, it's hardly a concern. The overall craftsmanship and artistry far outweigh any small hiccup like that. This piece truly transports you to the Grey Havens, and I think Weta Workshop has done a fantastic job capturing the spirit of this iconic location. I give this statue a 9 out of 10. Brilliant work, Weta. So if you've noticed a lack of videos from me lately, that's mainly because I've been hard at work at this. Arguably one of the defining features of the Grey Havens is the beautiful light that washes over the entire harbor. Now, while the environment statue Weta created is a stunning representation of the city itself, it doesn't include that lighting. So, in collaboration with the talented artist Julian Menev, we created a custom display stand to do just that. Julian came up with the idea and designed the 3D model, and I took on the task of bringing it to life through 3D printing and my knowledge of LED programming. If you're interested in learning more about this custom stand, I've covered it in detail in my previous video. Now, having built this, I fully understand why Weta didn't go this route, as it would have significantly increased both the cost and production time. But we wanted to try to add that extra element to truly capture the magic of the scene. And since this is something I made, I'll let you be the judge this time.